Hey folks, welcome to day 2 of the art experiment. I know I've survived a whole 2 days, it's crazy. Um, so, getting straight into it, I began working again on Trent's easy art lessons tutorials content. Um, Going back over a lot of circles. Again, I know it's exciting. It's terribly exciting, but this time, I think improvements have been made. It's only day 2. This day, I'm now focusing on like having these objects float. I think my blending of light to dark's getting a little bit better. Um, my implementation of like blending other shapes into the circles is getting better. And I'm also starting to play around with actually having indents and scratches and nicks and grooves within the circles themselves, as you can see on the page. Um, Now, like my improvement, there's a bit of an improvement I can see starting to happen, especially thinking now about not only the line weight and width, but the direction of light, but now also the implementation of having grooves and holes in the object itself and how that affects the light is yeah, it's really making me think and have fun with manipulating these objects, even though it is just a circle. um, it's been a very kind of interesting kind of fundamental practice. um, you can also see that I'm messing around with the same thing to do with a square down the bottom. That was done pretty quickly, so it's not exactly great, but again, it's not bad for a very quick sketch. Um, the next image again is continuing to play with light sources. Nothing too different, but I think my blending's gotten a bit better. The top left hand corner, I think the lighting hitting off the rear sphere should have actually bounced and hit the forward sphere a little bit. Um, but the fact that I'm able to kind of break this down and kind of start thinking about this, looking back at this stuff and being like, okay, well, I can see where the mistakes are. I think that's the most important thing. I know what I need to do, and I know I can now see where the issues are lying. Which means I can address them. Whereas before starting this, I didn't know. I didn't know at all. Um, Still an awful lot of work to be done. Like this is gonna be something I'm gonna be practicing probably for the full 6 months. Don't worry, I'm not gonna be putting spheres in consistently all the way through. Probably for the first couple of updates, then that'll probably fade into just a warm up practice that I'll be doing. But yeah, it's definitely something that needs consistency now. Now that I understand to a degree, there's still a lot of implementation that's being done wrong, as you can see. But I think it's getting better. It is definitely getting better, and it's only day 2, so it's not too bad. Here you can see this was at the very beginning of the lesson I did today. I think I did about 30 pages of these. This was page 2, and I was just trying to actually figure out what I wanted to do, which was nice. It was nice to be able to do some very, very quick circles and just try and figure out what would be interesting for me to attempt today. And this kind of led on to the next couple that led on to the ones I just showed you previously. After that, I moved on to, again, doing treasure chests. It's the next stage in Trent's course, is practicing how to draw essentially a treasure chest, if I can speak properly. I think this came out well. It's a very simple thing to draw, but it's very difficult within its simplicity, and it teaches you an awful lot. It's a very clever course. It really is. He's structured it in such a way that you're doing very basic things, but they cover and teach you an awful lot that you can manipulate to make very complex things. And it's a really good course. I'm gonna be doing a review of it, obviously, when I'm fully finished it. But at the moment, like it's helping a lot. It really is. So you can see on this treasure chest that like I tend to get kind of, I don't like doing things 100% as I'm taught. I'll take what the lesson is and I'll use what I'm being taught, but I'll also add in something to keep it interesting. So for me, I turned this box into like a mimic, or like the luggage of Terry Pratchett. Just to kind of keep it interesting for me, I just wanted to add some teeth and a tongue and maybe an eye. Again, it didn't come out too bad. It has me thinking about manipulating how to open the lid, and I'm kind of thinking a bit further ahead than I should be, but I think it came out well. Not great, but again, I've done about 15 pages of treasure chests, and I think this was kind of the most interesting one to show you guys, rather than just 15 pages of essentially a box. The image on the right is my continued practice of the Sikarosis. I cannot pronounce his name. It's very irritating. It's on the screen now, and the link's in the description. But how he goes about drawing anatomy, has just opened my eyes to it. It's alleviated the fear and trying to piece together the basic cylindrical person, where like you draw it with circles and spheres, or circles and cylinders and squares. But his way of using kind of a lightning bolt method and how to manipulate that into different poses, it's worked so well for me. Now, of course, it's an absolute insane amount of work that needs to be done. This is by no means a good drawing, but the fact I'm able to produce something like this on day 2 is, I'm pretty happy with it. And I've kind of gone back to the video and I've looked through the comments, and it's worked for an awful lot of people. I think he's really onto something with it, and the fact his channel is not even more popular than what it is a crying shame. I'll be doing a channel recommendation video of it, and his is going to be the first channel I do. And I'm just going to put up like the first 5 videos that I find the most interesting, although everything on his channel is fantastic. Yeah, I'm still kind of shocked at how much it's kind of clicked in my head a little bit with that pose. Moving on from that, I started Jake Parker's Mastering Perspective course, which is going to be the second course of this month that I'm doing alongside Terence. Now I'm doing this with the what's the name of the website? Society of Visual Storytelling, which has an awful lot of really, really good stuff on it. Again, I'll be doing a review of this course when I finish it. But this is kind of the basic breakdown of a square and a box. And it's feeding very much into what I was doing yesterday, of just kind of trying to understand the basic primary shapes. So far, Jake's gone into a lot of very interesting and to the point detail. He's got a very good way of explaining things. It's very to the point. It lets you get into the meat of it very quickly. Whereas I find an awful lot of perspective videos, they jump into just super complex, vanishing points with 1,001 different lines and then trying to decipher all of it. Jake just takes away all of that and just really almost holds your hand straight through it. And this is kind of from the first part of the course, which is just learning how to draw a square, a triangle, a circle, and then how to, similar to the circles that I'm doing with shading, just how to manipulate them into other things. As you can see here, I start to manipulate them into a cannon, car, a truck, and just doing page upon page, not worrying too much about getting something that looked good, but more worrying about getting the idea, getting the understanding of shapes and how they interact with one another and how they interact with perspective. because that's what they are. They are perspective. Yeah, it's a really good course, and so far, it's helping a lot. Like I'm surprised the sort of stuff I'm able to do, kind of really quickly off it. Now again, these 2 pages are one of, I think I did about 50 pages of this sort of stuff throughout today. But again, I didn't spend too much time on each individual thing. I just kind of tried to fill up pages. And if I made a mistake or anything like that, I just moved on to the next one. Then I went back to doing anatomy. Again, back to pen. I've got I have this little quote underneath what I wrote, which is like 2 days, imagine a year. Because again, this anatomy isn't perfect. This is just breaking down the basic torso and the different angles of the torso. But yeah, just it seems to be clicking and not looking too terrible. Which up to this point, every time I tried to draw a person, it just looked bad. Just straight out bad. But now it's I can see how they go about constructing it. And once you understand how they go about constructing the form, similar to perspective when you look at a painting or a piece of concept art and you've got this really beautifully elaborate and detailed building. But you take away all the details and you can see, okay, well, it's a box here, it's a cylinder there, it's this, that, or whatever. You can deconstruct it to its basic fundamentals. It really alleviates a lot of the doubt in your mind because you can start to understand it a little bit. And once you can kind of understand something a little bit, it kind of lifts that veil of confusion. So yeah, it's been interesting. This is page 35 of this sort of stuff I did today. So I just, again, similar to everything else, I'll learn something and then I just go into practice mode and I'll just try and just hammer out a ton of stuff. I highly recommend to all of you, if you're doing this as well, use a pen. Just take erasers and throw them away. It's the best thing. Like the amount of times I've lost so much time just sitting there trying to erase something. Like I could have erased any one of these torsos that didn't turn out well, but instead I was like, nah, I'll just move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And so far it's getting there. Again, it's day 2. As you can see from this page, that this is one of the first ones I tried to do. These did not come out well. Especially the top right hand corner. It was, yeah, I don't know where that was going. But again, I'm playing around with it. At this point, I kind of understand the basic shapes that go into it. I keep rewatching the same video. It's like, I'm not gonna try and pronounce his name, Sekirosis, anatomy video, and just rewatching it, really trying to implement what he does, and so far it's getting there. I can day 2, it's not the worst thing in the world. The last thing I did today was the next stage of Trent's course, which was the implementing everything into a house. So your details, your shapes, your shading, all of this. And the nice thing about this was I was able to implement a bit of stuff I've learned from Jake Parker's Mastering Perspective. So I did the car, and I started playing around with trees, and I started playing around with adding in a few different details to make it kind of my own. And I'm a massive fan of Jurassic Park, so I had to add in a dinosaur for some reason. Which, the dinosaur came out pretty well, actually. Not too bad. I find that, like, when I got to that point, I kind of relaxed into the drawing, and I find when I relax while I'm drawing, things come out better when I'm not really thinking about it. As soon as I try to really think about it, that's when things start to go sideways. You can really see from the perspective, it's not great. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with the perspective. For instance, I found the kind of barrel tower that's next to the house. It's kind of leaning, sinking in. Now that's kind of, in one way I kind of like it because it gives a little bit of character to it, but there's a lot of things that are kind of not right with it. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people watching this kind of visualizing where the vanishing points are and being like, oh god, this did not go 100% correct. But for day 2, it's not the worst. I'm happy enough with it. I think it's interesting to look at least, if nothing else. So that's kind of what I did today. I just continued with Trent's course, shading circles, looking at perspective, crates, boxes, and barrels. I started the Mastering Perspective course with Jake Parker. Again, just going through basic shapes in perspective, 1 point, 2 point perspective and things like that. And then just doing the very basics of anatomy using Psychiosis. I need to get some form of like autoplay for his name. Anatomy with pen. And that's been day 2 of this artistic journey. So far so good. Again, very much in the learning phase, very much in the trying to commit everything to memory. But it's going well so far, I think. So yeah, guys, thank you for joining me for today. I'll see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Remember to like and subscribe if you want, but if you don't, who cares? Just have a nice day and have a nice evening and have a better tomorrow. Just enjoy life. All right, guys. Catch you in the next one.